My name is Jenna Hill. I'm 34 years old, an officer in the United States Army, stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was born in Boulder, Colorado, a place that smells like pine trees and silence. It's funny how I used to dream of escaping its quietness. These days, I find myself longing for it. I don't usually celebrate my birthday. In the Army, days blur into one another, and besides, I've never been one for cake or confetti. But this year felt different. Not because I was excited. No, it was something else. A heaviness I couldn't quite name. I had planned to spend the day alone, a cup of bitter coffee, a walk around the base. Some peace. Instead, I got a box. It arrived at 8:12 a.m. precisely, delivered to my office. No return address I recognized. No sender's name. Just my full name, printed in bold black letters, with a slight smudge over the A in Jenna, like someone had typed it quickly, or nervously. At first, I thought maybe it was from a colleague, a harmless birthday prank. But when I picked it up, I noticed something strange. The weight. It felt oddly heavy for its size, like whatever was inside wasn't meant to be touched. The cardboard was cheap, industrial, sealed with thick tape, edges a little frayed like it had already been opened once and resealed. "Happy birthday, Captain," said Lieutenant Rivera, leaning in the doorway with his ever-present smirk. He was sharp, observant, and had a memory like a steel trap. "Expecting something?" "No idea," I replied, still holding the box mid-air. Rivera stepped closer and squinted at the corner of the package. "That logo. You see it? Bottom left." There was a faded, almost ghost-like print of a company name, Handcraft USA. He frowned. "That place is on our watch list. Possible shell company, fake artisan goods, money laundering." "You really don't know who sent this?" I shook my head. Something in my chest went cold. He studied me for a second, longer than was comfortable, then said quietly, "You should let command know. Now." I didn't want to. Not on my birthday. Not when I had done nothing wrong. But something told me this wasn't going to go away. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a small, pale interrogation room on base, staring at the unopened box, now placed on a metal table under a low-hanging light. A military investigator named Dawson sat across from me. Stone-faced civilian clothes. Nothing casual about him. "Captain Hill," he said. "How long have you been affiliated with Handcraft USA?" "I haven't," I answered firmly. "I don't know anything about them." He slid a paper across the table, a registration form. My name, my address, my signature. All of it looked real, except it wasn't. "That's not my signature," I said, and suddenly I realized my hands were shaking. Dawson didn't blink. "This company is registered under your name. 2 business loans were filed this year. One is already overdue." I stared at the paper, the font, the layout, the phone number. It was my old one, disconnected last year. My stomach dropped, and then a name hit me like a whisper in a windstorm. Ellie. No, she wouldn't. Not again. Would she? The next morning, I was wide awake long before reveille. I hadn't slept. I couldn't. My mind kept circling back to the paper on the table. That signature, so close to mine it made my skin crawl, and the company name, Handcraft USA. Something about it pulled at the edge of a memory I hadn't thought about in years. I poured myself black coffee in the base kitchen, letting the bitterness settle into the corners of my mouth, grounding me. Outside the window, soldiers moved in practiced rhythm. It was just another day for them, but for me, the air felt heavier, as if something had shifted permanently. I didn't report for morning brief. I went straight to Rivera. "Can you pull the original registration file for Handcraft USA?" I asked him. "Everything. Ownership, address history, banking activity, Communications? I need to see it. He blinked. Are you sure you want to get deeper into this? I met his eyes. I don't have a choice. 2 hours later, I was staring at a computer screen in a dim corner of the base office, scrolling through a file that seemed to get worse with every page. The company was registered under my name, my current address at Fort Bragg, and a second location back in Boulder. My old house, the one I grew up in. Under co-founder, another name appeared. Eleanor Hill. There she was, my younger sister Ellie. Just seeing her name made something ancient stir inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something older than that. Exhaustion, maybe. The kind you carry in your bones. The kind that comes from cleaning up someone else's mess for most of your life. It was always Ellie. Brilliant, unpredictable, reckless. And me? I was the one who handled the consequences, the one who was supposed to be strong. A message notification popped up at the bottom of the screen, a scan of a loan application tied to the company. As I opened it, my mouth went dry. A forged military ID, my ID faked signatures. Even a letter of commendation, completely fabricated, that listed me as a business reference. This wasn't just a mistake. This was methodical, calculated. Ellie hadn't just used my name, she'd built something on it. Rivera came back into the room, holding 2 folders. He dropped them on the desk with a sigh. There's more, he said. Your credit's been pinged 5 times in the past 8 months. 3 were small loans, 2 denied. Someone tried to open a line of credit under your name in Colorado last fall. Did they succeed? He hesitated. One of them went through. A furniture lease, high-end equipment. Not reported yet, probably hasn't defaulted. But you didn't do that, did you? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the only thing I could see was my family, sitting around that old kitchen table in Boulder. My father with his loud voice and louder opinions. My mother, always adjusting her tone depending on who was listening, and Ellie, always just out of reach. Always one lie ahead of discovery. I remembered a Christmas years ago when my mother handed me a folder and said, "Sign this, honey. It's just a school form for Ellie. She needs help with tuition." I didn't read it. I signed it. And when I asked about it later, they acted like it never happened. Was that the beginning? Had they been planting seeds in my name for years? I closed the files and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Rivera was silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You know this doesn't stop at fraud, right? Command's taking this seriously. They're freezing your promotion, pending investigation." That cut deeper than I expected. I had worked for that promotion for years, through deployments, endless rotations, mind-numbing paperwork, hard days and harder nights, and now it was being held hostage by a lie. No, by them. I stood up. "I'm going to Colorado." Rivera raised an eyebrow. "You sure that's a good idea?" "No," I said. "But I need answers, and I think I know where to find them." The house looked smaller than I remembered. I hadn't been back to Boulder in nearly 5 years. The last time, it was for my grandmother's funeral. Even then, I hadn't stayed long. Just enough time for the obligatory hugs, a stale casserole, and the heavy silence that always clung to the walls of my childhood home. But this time was different. I wasn't here to play the good daughter. I wasn't here to keep the peace. I parked a few houses down. It was early evening, warm, quiet, the kind of quiet that feels staged. Fake. The lights in the living room were on. A shadow moved past the curtains. Someone was home. I rang the bell once, then twice. It was Ellie who opened the door, barefoot, wearing a loose cardigan over yoga pants, her dark hair tied up in a messy bun. She looked surprised for only half a second, a flicker of something in her eyes, before the mask slid into place. "Jenna," she said, as if I were a welcome guest. "Wow, you didn't tell me you were coming." I didn't move. We need to talk. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Sure. Come in. The house was exactly the same. Same wallpaper, same furniture, same air freshener smell masking something older, like resentment baked into the drywall. Where are Mom and Dad? I asked. Ellie shrugged. Out. Grocery run, I think. You want some tea? Or... No. Sit down. She blinked, then smiled, that familiar, nervous twitch at the edge of her lips. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. That table. The one where every fight in our family had either started or ended. I know what you did, I said. The smile didn't drop, but it faltered, just enough to confirm everything. I don't know what you mean, she said, too quickly. Handcraft USA loans. My name, my ID. You forged it all. She let out a soft laugh, looking down at her hands. God, Jenna, you're always so dramatic. Stop. She froze. I've seen the documents. The federal investigation is open. They're coming for you. This isn't a speeding ticket, Ellie. This is federal fraud. You used me. Her mouth opened, then closed again. For a moment, she looked like the little sister I used to walk home from school. Scared. Small. But then her eyes hardened. I didn't use you, she said quietly. I needed a way to get the business off the ground. No one gives a damn about small creators unless you have credentials. And you've got this perfect little file, military, clean record, honors. You stole my life, I snapped. Ellie stood up suddenly, knocking her chair back. Oh, come on, Jenna. You act like your life's so damn perfect, like you've always done everything by the book. Well, maybe I didn't want to live in your shadow forever. Maybe I was tired of being the screw-up little sister. I stood too, fists clenched. Then why did you make me your cover? If you wanted to be so independent, why build your empire on my name? She didn't answer, and that was enough. Behind me, I heard a door creak open. I turned. My mother stood there, grocery bags in her arms, eyes wide. My father behind her, quiet. You're back, my mother said, flatly. No hug, no warmth, just an observation. I stared at them both. Did you know? No one spoke. Did you know Ellie was using my name? That she opened accounts in my identity? That she committed federal crimes? My father glanced away. My mother looked at Ellie, and then, softly, she said, It was just paperwork, Jenna. She needed help. I felt something inside me snap. You knew. You signed. You helped. It wasn't supposed to go this far, Ellie whispered. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe how unsurprised I was. This is who you are, I said. All of you. I was just the reliable one. The shield. The cleanup crew. Don't be so dramatic, my mother muttered. I stared at her. Really stared. This woman who once braided my hair for school photos. This woman who taught me how to sew a patch on a uniform. And now, she couldn't even look me in the eye. An investigation is open, I said. I've already cooperated. They'll be contacting you, all of you. My father shifted. You wouldn't do that to your own family. I already did, I said. Because you did it first. I walked out of the house. No one followed. In the silence of my car, I sat for a long time with the engine off, the windows cracked just enough to let in the breeze. For a moment, I grieved. Not the loss of family, but the loss of the illusion that I'd ever had one. Then I turned the key. There was still more to face, still hearings to attend, statements to give, signatures to untangle from decades of quiet betrayal. But at least now, I knew what I was fighting for. The courtroom wasn't what I expected. No thunderous drama, No gasps or slamming gavels, just the sterile echo of chairs shifting, the quiet clatter of papers, and the low murmur of legal language being spoken like ritual. I sat in uniform, spine straight, hands still, heart pacing in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Ellie sat across from me at the defendant's table, dressed in muted gray. Her hair was neatly combed, her makeup subtle. She looked smaller here, not younger, just reduced, like someone trying to disappear in plain sight. To her left were our parents. They weren't technically on trial, not officially, but their names appeared in enough documents to draw attention. Letters of support for Ellie's business. Notarized statements in my name. Forged. Emails confirming family consent. Some of it was clever. Most of it wasn't. None of it was innocent. The prosecutor spoke with calm efficiency, reading out each charge like a drumbeat: wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, falsification of federal documents. For each count, there was a paper trail, neat and undeniable. I was called to testify. It wasn't easy. I spoke about the birthday package, the signatures, the loans, the years of suspicion I had explained away in the name of family. I looked at the judge. I looked at Ellie. I told the truth. When I stepped down, I didn't look at my parents. Ellie didn't testify. Her lawyer entered a plea deal. She would serve time. Not much, but enough to make headlines. Enough to stain her dreams in ways no rebranding could clean. My parents weren't charged, but the court issued a formal censure for their cooperative negligence. Outside the courthouse, it was raining. Not hard. Just enough to make the world look like it was holding its breath. Rivera waited for me by the stairs, holding 2 coffees. "You did it," he said, offering one to me. "No," I replied, taking it. "I survived it." We stood there for a while, watching the gray sky bleed into the concrete. There was no cheering, no applause, just the soft hush of justice doing what it does, slowly, imperfectly, but thoroughly. Back on base a week later, the hold on my promotion was lifted. A quiet memo, 1 line, no further action required. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just sat with it. Let it be real. That night, I went to my barracks and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I deleted my family's numbers, blocked their emails. I opened a clean notepad and wrote down the names of people who had stood by me, colleagues, friends, myself. Then I filed for a legal name change. Not because I was hiding, but because I wanted to reclaim something, a future untouched by lies, a version of myself not tethered to people who only saw me as a resource. On a quiet Sunday morning, months later, I stood alone in a small coastal diner with sun spilling through the windows. No uniform, no badge, just a woman with a cup of coffee and silence that finally felt honest. A waitress passed by and asked, "Waiting on someone?" "No," I said with a smile. "Just me." Outside, the ocean whispered against the rocks, patient and endless. I didn't look back, and for the first time in years, I didn't need to. Life doesn't always warn you before it turns upside down. Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who cut the deepest. I never thought I'd have to choose between family and truth. I never imagined that doing the right thing would mean standing alone. But here's what I've learned. Being strong doesn't mean staying silent. It means choosing integrity, even when it hurts. If my story meant something to you, if you've ever felt used, betrayed, or underestimated, you're not alone. And you can come out on the other side with your head held high. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you would have done in my place. This channel is full of real stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges, betrayal, loss, strength, and survival. And trust me, Some of them will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, and never forget who you are.